Welcome, everybody, to another glorious episode of the Put On Waivers Podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, and I am podcasting off the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful day, beautiful morning out here. I had need a little jolt for these morning recordings, so I got a little Starbucks, not my normal Panera Bread coffee. I see why people like get that thing. You get Starbucks has got a little bit more juice in it. I think no question, no question about it. I'm here with Ryan Holmes. You can catch him on Twitter at RHOLM22 on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, all that stuff. Thank you for following the show. Rate, review, and subscribe. And if you do rate, review, and subscribe, and hit us up on the DMs on the show, we do have t-shirts and stickers and stuff like that. So give us let me know who is the all-time leading rusher for the Seattle Seahawks. First person to do that will get a t-shirt. We'll get a t-shirt and some stickers for we'll put on waivers NFL show out here. So we'll get you all dressed up in the gear, looking nice. Thanks for folks for listening to us in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Aaron, thank you. Pittsburgh, PA, Compton, California, and Butte, Montana. Ryan, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Do I get to guess on the Seahawks question? I don't want to give away the answer.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think we both know. I want to make it an easy question. If first person who does it, yeah, I will say. I'll send you something. How's everything going?
Everything's going good. Busy day, baseball trade line coming in, but dude, a lot of NBA stuff, and then NFL training camp. It's crazy right now.
How crazy was yesterday? Like yesterday was the good part of social media. You got like Jeff Passan, you got Shams, you got Woj giving you constant updates every 5 seconds about what's going on, and then you got football back. I just saw a commercial for I think it's the Steelers and somebody playing next week. And it's like, damn, oh yeah, oh wow, they are playing football next week. Like, I mean, it's not real football, but they're actually playing football next week, so that should be fun. Another announcement is that the silver lining that we used to do is now over. It's just we're not doing it anymore. It's just going to be the Put On Raiders podcast. So we're going to dedicate some time for the Raiders here because I mean we are NFL centric on this one, and then we'll do the Raiders stuff as well. Let's roll with the Rodgers stuff real quick. I think we both said he wasn't going anywhere. I think you and I, I'll repeat this again. We both said he wasn't going anywhere. And he still isn't going anywhere. He's not going to all these little, all these. That was just summertime talk to fill the time on some of these talking head shows. Where more of a realistic situation should program as far as football goes. He wasn't going anywhere contractually. NFL teams basically control those situations. What are your thoughts about his press conference, and what do you thought to think about Gutekunst's presser as well? Just kind of hearing them kind of maybe go back and forth.
It was interesting to hear unfiltered Aaron Rodgers and the fact that he came in, reported, got the stuff he wanted in the contract, then he went out and had a press conference and basically let out the dirty laundry behind the curtains of everything going on in the Packers organization. So I would have to think he gave them the heads up that he was going to come out and say some of the things he did, and they knew. I would think that he didn't blindside him with some of his concerns there. But, the fact that he went out and basically aired out the dirty laundry inside the organization and gave his feelings of why he took the stand he did, I thought was great as a fan to because that kind of stuff's going on, but to actually hear them talk about it and say it was a little eye-opening. Now, I don't know what it really accomplished for him in the long run other than having that 2023 year removed from his contract because he didn't get any new money from the stalemate. He got Randall Cobb.
Was it removed? Because it sounds it was when they interviewed him, I wasn't clear on whether or not he has the ability to be a free agent. They can still control are they still in control of his contractual situation?
They are for 21 this year and next year.
Okay.
So they removed 2023. They can't tag him. So if he wanted to become a free agent and walk away, a la Tom Brady did in 2023, he can do that. There's no new money. If they trade him before June 1st of next year, it's close to a $27 million cap hit.
So he's there for this year and next year then.
There's a good chance he's there next year as well. And then at that point, if he retires or leaves at that point, they can't go after him for, it's a little over $11 million in signing bonus, part of this $58 million that he got. So basically, I think he is. I think he's there for 2 years. They're $49 million over the cap, I read today, for next year, and that's before you take in a $27 million cap hit. So it's, and that's what the cap expected to go up. So we'll see. The outside chance he just hates it there and moves on, they're going to have to take a massive cap hit to do it. So we'll see if they do that or not. And then at that point, how do you re-sign Devontae Adams if you're $70-80 million under the cap?
And then that's for, I mean, for us who have a little, silver and black side to us, that means no Denver for him for 2 years. Fine. That's fine. Yep. That's fine. I can live with that part. I can live with that part. And he'll be 40 at that time, by that time as well too. Listen, he even went into like, hey, my group athletes first. He talked about athletes first, and some of the guys who he went into the draft part of it too. Like he didn't go into just free agency. Some of these guys just go into free agency. He went into the draft portion of it as well. Like, talking about like guys who would be, good players to come over. He had that laundry list. It was good to see that Casey Hayward was on that laundry list of players that he wished we're still Packers. It was interesting to see that. I did feel like, it, as much as like where we all work for companies, and then like we always kind of like, some people who, will say stuff about their bosses when they leave. Like he was able to do it and still work there. That's kind of weird. That's kind of a weird situation as far as that goes. But what do you think about the Gutekunst part of it? Like he is a guy who was like, did he come off smug and arrogant? To me, I just feel like he came off like a regular GM. Like, we're gonna do this together. We're gonna do this. Where he's always been he's always had some part of the conversation, but the moves that we make are going to be, team based, not just what Aaron wants. I mean, is Randall Cobb is Cobb Rodgers is Antonio Brown? Like, is that a guy who just, is that the guy we're talking about, or is it something like more in depth? Because he has a job to do as well.
Yeah, the whole I need Randall Cobb to come over or come back was kind of weird to me, because at this point in his career, he's just another guy as a slot receiver. Like, he doesn't stand out. He doesn't create as much separation. There's not explosion left. He's just a guy that Aaron is comfortable with. As far as Gutekunst coming off, like he has a job to do. His job's to put the Packers in the best position now and in the future.
And they have played in back-to-back NFC Championship games.
And that roster that they have, although it's not the best roster in the league, but it's easily in the top 10. And a lot of that is guys that they've drafted, either Ted Thompson and developed or held on to. So yeah, they've let guys go. And Aaron had no problem telling you who those players were, but they've done a good job filling a lot of these holes as well. Have they done it necessarily at the wide receiver skill position? I don't know if they have, outside of Devontae Adams, but at the same time, Gutekunst, did what he needed to do to get him in there and get him to play this year. So you got to give credit to him at that point. But there is going to be a breakup here either next year or the year after. This has a very limited shelf life left to it. Whether Aaron continues playing or not for another organization in 22 or 23 remains to be seen.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We'll all see what happens as far as that goes. I'm not really I'm more on the side. I think it's somewhere in the middle for both of them. I think they could have, instead of, listen, if Jordan Love turns out where Jordan Love turns out to be a really good quarterback down the road, then we'll look like I'll give them all the credit in the world for making the deal. Short term, I feel like in that wide receiver draft where you have receivers all over the board, I think that was an opportunity there that they missed as far as that goes. And who was really in on Jordan Love? Like, were a lot of people in on Jordan Love? Like, he did not grade out very well. And doesn't mean he won't be a good pro, but he has not graded. He did not grade out very well where people were loving to see him go in the first round, second round, all that stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't think anyone was taking him in the first round at that point. So
No.
I think he falls into early to mid second. Someone's taking him in the second round. I firmly believe that. But like you said, there was wide receivers sitting right there. T. Higgins was sitting there. Brandon Ayuk was sitting there. The 49ers moved up to get.
T.
They
Higgins with
both
that
look really,
body,
yeah.
and Aaron Rodgers' ball placement in the red zone. I mean, that's a 16 touchdown season, probably. Are you kidding me?
And he might be a replacement for Adams if you look,
Ex-
a year or two in the future.
exactly. And that's probably the best point of it all. Watson did what we thought he would do. He came into camp, and kind of forces the league's hands now. $50,000. Okay, was it $50,000 a day if you
Yep.
hold out? So all these people who talk about he's going to hold out. Interesting how there's nobody holding out, because 50, that is collectively bargained with the league. Like, that was what the players and owners agreed with. So you're not getting, it's hard to sit there and give up that kind of cash, right?
Yeah, and you have to pay it now. It's not like the team can
Yes.
forgive it like in the past, or oh
Nope.
no, we're all good.
Nope, not anymore.
Raider fans probably wish that was around in 4 years ago. But that's a story for another podcast. But yeah,
it,
50 grand adds up quickly.
it does. It does. Even when you have a lot of money, 50 grand is 50 grand. 50 grand is still 50
And he's
grand.
playing a mean scout team safety, it sounds like, just standing around at practice, not doing anything. So
Oh, but I mean, you can't have him do anything. I mean, because here's a guy
can't get
who
hurt.
he can't get hurt. All his value goes away if he's hurt. I mean, whether your plan is to play him and have him on your team or to trade him to somebody else. And I do think that at some point, once it's clear, it's going to be. I think it's going to be a season. But if you are the Eagles, if you are the Broncos, if you are some of these quarterback hungry teams, to me, it's worth it. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't like what was, I don't know the best way to handle it. I don't know how, I'm not condoning what was done or allegedly done. And and I think that it's part of it is just like guys with money get away with stuff, and it is, but I'm just all this stuff is allegedly until proven in court, and I don't want nobody to come after the show for that. I remember I said this allegedly, but this is still something that he has to deal with.
I'm on the other side. I think he's not playing because they don't want him to get hurt and be stuck with that contract. So I think if he had a knee injury, a la Teddy Bridgewater, and you're on the hook for guaranteed money years into the future, at this point, I don't think he gets traded. I don't think he plays until this gets cleared up legally in the court system, until the NFL can make a determination. If I'm the Broncos, yeah, I'd love to have him, but you're going to send over 3 first-round picks for a guy who at any point
three starters.
Yeah, at any point he won't be able to play if the NFL puts him on the exempt list. So I think everyone's just covering their own bases. Deshaun's doing what he needs to do to not get fined. The team's doing what they need to do to make sure that his trade value is still there if he can play and he doesn't get hurt and they're stuck with some injury clause in his contract for some guaranteed money that they don't want to have to pay out if he doesn't play.
Yeah, should be interesting and see what happens there. COVID and NFL teams. Now, this is going to be a battle back and forth all year. Players who, some teams are fully vaccinated. Some teams, like the Redskins, the Washington football team, are not that way. And I think people are, the coach has come out there and said some things. And then TJ Ward had some words for the coach about that situation as well. So, I saw that Rich Dennison came back, is going to follow the protocols for the Vikings. So he'll be back as well. Thoughts about this whole COVID thing, and this. I mean, like, if you have a COVID outbreak on a squad, it's not like it's not like baseball or basketball where you have all these games. It's you have to do that quarantine, all other stuff like that. What is the stance of what should these teams be doing? Because it's not going anywhere right now. And you can make an argument that it's coming back in full force for the fall.
Yeah, the Delta variant is clearly running rampant around the country right now. As far as these teams, they have to do it's business. They have to do everything they can to ensure that games will be played.
Yep.
There's too much money on the line to have games canceled with the networks, with the teams, with just the money that's coming in for parking and concessions and ticket revenue, all the stuff that they didn't have last year. And the teams have to put themselves in the best position to make sure those games get played. Now, their players have every right not to get vaccinated. And if they don't want to do that, that's fine. But they know what the rules are and what protocols they need to follow to make sure that they can play. And if they do have a positive case, they have to sit out 10 days. And it's tough now if you're a free agent looking to latch on somewhere, because one thing that's going to come up, I guarantee teams are going to ask the agents, what's the vaccination status? That's going to be the first question. And can we get this guy in, and can he play now? It's definitely tough.
And you talk about if you're like, let's just say, look at like certain we talk about with the Raiders, that third running back situation. If there's a vaccination thing with Riddick and Richard, they're very similar. They both have certain things. If one guy is vaccinated, one guy isn't, that could be the difference between you making a team and not making a team.
It absolutely is going to be a deciding factor across the league. Teams can't say it, but it's going to happen at the bottom of the roster now. It's interesting that Riddick and Richard are both in the COVID protocol now. So we'll see how long they're on there. If they're both on there for, 10, 12, 14 days, then that gives us a good indication of what the vaccination status is. And the Raiders had to bring in a couple of running backs just to get through practice. It looks like Kenyon Drake did practice today, so he's back. But it's going to be interesting across the league, because it's going to happen. There's going to be a point where some superstar is going to come down and test positive and have to miss 10 days. And we're going to know what their vaccination status is and how it's going to affect the team. Because like you said, in football, it's 17 games now. Like, one game is going to be the difference to whether you make the playoffs or not for a lot of these teams across the league.
It's huge. So what, if you're vaccinated, it's 10 days. If you're not vaccinated, it's 14?
No, if you're vaccinated, it's 2 tests. So it could be a day or two. I don't know if it could be 2 tests in the same 24-hour period, but I think it's 2 days. And then if you're unvaccinated, you have to sit out 10 days like last year.
Okay. So,
which I believe Lamar Jackson tested positive, and he's out for the first 10 days. So I don't think he's vaccinated.
And this is his second positive test, I believe, as far as that goes.
Yeah. So he had it last year too. So, and then you have players coming out like Ryan Tannehill, Cleveland Farrell yesterday, saying that they got vaccinated because the leagues basically makes it easier for those players to play. And some interesting comments from those 2 players if you read them. So I don't want to read. I don't want to turn the show into you should or shouldn't.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely don't want to do that part of it. I just think it's like Farrell better do whatever he can to make sure he can play. We'll leave that for the other podcast.
We'll get to that on the Raiders podcast. Yeah.
Let's go to the Browns and love hate, and then the next 4 weeks, just to preview for folks who are watching and listening to the show. We are going to preview 2 divisions. Now you got 4 weeks till football starts, so 2 divisions next 4 weeks, and then we'll have some fun with that. I think next week is the AFC and NFC East division, so we'll hit that up next week and talk about those teams. But just the Browns real quick, probably one of the best rosters in football. You mentioned top 10 rosters, that some team may have. Like, this team, it definitely is a roster that, a lot of teams around football are envious of. They do have a lot of talent. I didn't personally like the Denzel Ward pick, but then Denzel Ward opened my eyes and showed me that he could definitely be one of the top corners in the game. I think this division and this team is really going to be a lot about what can Joe Woods get out of the defensive unit, because I feel pretty confident with the scheme from another year with Stefanski and Mayfield. Maybe if you get anything out of Odell Beckham, that can take the team to another level as far as that offensive. I love the Chubb, Hunt, the thing in the backfield. They do a good job there. You don't lose anything if anybody gets hurt. Thoughts about the Browns here in the 2021 season?
Yeah, I think you covered it well. I think this is a top 5 offensive line, and then that we don't even need to talk about the depth they have at running back and wide receiver, even the tight ends. They have a couple playmakers there. So this team is set up well. I do have concerns that Baker Mayfield is the guy that's pulling the trigger under center. He's kind of in the in-between bucket for me. I don't love him, don't hate him. But defensively, the one concern I have is this is a cold weather team. We're expanding the season an extra week. They're playing in a lot of bad weather situations, whether that be Pittsburgh, Cleveland late in the year, if they're playing in the Northeast. I don't like the linebackers on this team, and I don't like the defensive tackle. So is this team going to be able to step up and stop the run when it matters most, playing in the AFC North? Because Pittsburgh's going to try to run the ball. Hopefully Cincinnati with Joe Mixon tries to run the ball. And Baltimore's going to run the ball. But everywhere else in this roster is a positive. Defensively, they can rush the passer. They got great cover guys. They have depth in the secondary. They've upgraded at safety. So I think this team hopefully wants to have teams play against them to throw the ball around so they can go into their nickel and play coverage and just rush the passer with Clowney and Garrett on the outside. I do have concerns if it's a slugfest and they have to stop the run. I don't know if they have the pieces necessary to do that.
Yeah. Newsome, JOK out of Notre Dame. Those guys, those are the two guys they got in the first couple of rounds. I think those two are coming in trying to push for starting positions there. JOK he was picked from quote unquote top 10 mock draft to all the way to round 2 of pick 52 overall. How does he fit on this team? Did you like him coming out of college?
I question the position. He's a little guy. He's 6 foot, about 215. So he's not big enough, I think, to be an every down linebacker. He fits as a nickel coverage player as a linebacker great in this league because he can really play the slot and he can play coverage. Some teams probably thought he was a safety. There was a health issue coming out. There was some reports that there was a heart issue that was found in a physical that probably pushed him down the board a little bit. But getting him on the field for 3 downs in a base defense, I don't know if he fits there, but I think he's going to be a tremendous nickel player. And that's, being able just to play coverage, get him in on 3rd downs on passing situations. If they get the lead and teams need to throw the ball around the field, he's a good matchup. Where you can use him as a spy potentially on Lamar Jackson because he can run. Yep. But teams probably were all over the place. Some teams probably thought he could start. Some thought he was a nickel player. Some thought he was a strong safety. So it's interesting to see how they're going to deploy him.
Could he play strong safety?
Probably. He's 215 pounds. Yeah. He can run. He's like a 4-5 guy. So yeah, he could play. I could see some teams doing that.
Yeah, to me, I just see him as a hybrid. So I think that's something that but to me, I like to. Hybrid sounds great because I remember Isaiah Simmons. Oh, hybrid. Do you have do you have the brain power to actually make that work? You need
a really creative defensive coordinator.
Exactly. And I think Arizona is still trying to find out what they want to get out of him as well. It's interesting.
I don't love the kicker on this team either, if that matters too. So they're going to play a lot of close games. I'm not a big Cody Parkey fan.
Cody Parkey. Well, listen. Dom the Bomb got cut from the Raiders, so maybe you never know. That was my guy. Until Carlson's been solid, so I can't. So they let him go. Going over to the Vikings here now. This is interesting because you look at their roster. They have a good roster. They have a situation where you say to yourself, okay, can they sweep the Lions? They should sweep the Lions. Should they sweep the Bears? You know what? They probably should, with the quarterback situation in Chicago, they probably should sweep the Bears. They probably won't. They probably split. But they should they should split with the Packers, in my mind. But then, what separates the Packers? So I view them as the second best team in the division. What separates the Packers from the Vikings, in my mind, is when you have Rodgers, Mahomes, Brady, they don't lose to bad teams. They're not gonna have those questionable games where you're overthrowing, Adam Thielen, or the famous, the ball that, where, Jefferson's wide open in the end zone and he screams, "Come on, Kurt." Like, everybody could hear because he overthrows the receiver. Like, he has two guys who, like, I mean, damn, those dudes are like, when you watch them on All 22, it's like, yo, like, these dudes are open. Like, it's hard to, like, find a better duo in the league. And it's only the second year, but, like, I mean, they did a great job of, I mean, talk about if you're going to replace a Stephon Diggs, they did a great job doing it.
No, definitely. This team is about what we saw last year. I think they're kind of a 9-8, 8-9 team. And like you said, they're pretty up and down. I think that has a lot to do with the quarterback on this team as well. The one thing about this team that I like, some of the players, they have playmakers at every level, but there's no depth on this team. So if there's injuries at certain positions, they're in trouble. And that's what happened last year on the defense. So you can go across the roster, whether it's Jefferson or Thielen or Dalvin Cook on offense, or you know, to go to the defense, that you have Hunter rushing the passer, Kendricks, Patrick Peterson, Harrison Smith. So they have playmakers at all levels. It's a really young offensive line. This is my one concern, because this team's going to have to establish the run. And you're starting a rookie at left tackle. You got a second-year guy at left guard, third-year guy at center, and then a second-round pick a couple of years ago at right tackle. And there's not a lot of depth behind those guys. So it's a really young offensive line that's going to have to hold up in a division where they're going to have to run the ball. And they're going to be facing Khalil Mack, the Bears defense. The Lions don't really have much defensively, but then you're going to have to face the Smith brothers up in Green Bay and then out of the division. So I think they're going to have a little bit of trouble against teams that can really rush the passer and stop the run. And then it's really going to fall more on Kirk Cousins.
I believe they play NFC West too, so like those teams have pass rushers as well. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see about that part of it. Can they win in the point of attack against those talented pass rushers? That should be interesting. And I think a question I have for you too is like, is Mike Zimmer's like double A gap stuff, is that just like dated? Is it like
it's not working anymore?
It's not. People are not. It's funny because I think it was Clecchio Semele. He got a while back. They got interested. He got into an interview with Greg Papa, and they talked about, how he would like to see. Greg Papa talked about how he'd like to see Khalil Mack walk up and down the line of scrimmage, kind of pick his hole, maybe come up the A gap, and he had an interesting response. He said, I would not. I mean, and there's no disrespect, but I would not take that seriously. And it was more along the lines of like basically saying like, I'm a huge guard. And if you bring in like a smaller guy in front of me, like, I'm just going to be able to just move. I mean, not that Khalil Mack is small, but like if you bring a defensive end, like inside like that, I can handle like most guards will be able to handle that part of it. Like,
yeah, and you're not going to beat those guys with power. They're going to have to beat them with speed and initial quickness. But the minute those guys get their hands on them, they're done. They're not going to be around them.
It's over. So and like, how many times do you even break? Like, I always see people jump into that gap, but a lot of times they're just dropping anyway. So most of the time they're just dropping.
Yeah, they're not really bringing the double A gap pressure.
Exactly.
They're just showing that and they're dropping out.
And people know
and
that.
You have to have really athletic linebackers to do that because of the ground they're going to have to pick up and the fact that they're going to have different coverage responsibilities. A lot of those are zone teams. Mm-hmm. And you have your back to the quarterback running to spots. You're dropping to spots more than anything. And then you're trying to figure out the route combos that are coming at you on the fly. So it's tough. You got to have athletic guys. And clearly that defense without Barr and Kendricks, who were hurt last year, couldn't play that defense. And now I'm not sure on this line, if you can slide your protection towards Hunter, where's the other pass rush coming from? Like, I'm not scared of Stephen Weatherly or Michael Pierce or Dalvin Tomlinson I mean, now, and then you got a rookie and Patrick Jones behind them. Like, so I think a lot of they're going to be able to slide protection. They're going to be able to chip Danielle Hunter. And then where's the pass rush on this team?
And I think one thing that's going to be huge too is like, and I think and I know it's a different defense. I know it's a whole different defense, but when you're preparing for the season and you're watching all 22 in NFL, anytime you want to put that all 22 back on the back up, let us know, please. And Yannick, Yannick Ngakoue, who the Raiders, if he has a big year with the Raiders, even though it's two different schemes, Vikings fans are going to say, wait a minute. Like, why did we, why we're struggling with a pass rush and he has 12 sacks for the Raiders? Like, I mean, why wouldn't we not hold on to him? So it should be interesting to see what happens as far as that goes. One of my favorite players in this draft was J.C. Horn. And I think that's going to be, they have, in Carolina, they have kind of went all in on defense. I think that their previous draft was all defensive players, and then their first one this year ends up being J.C. Horn. Like they're trying to improve themselves defensively in a big way out there. What are your thoughts about J.C. Horn, and also like this whole like dynamic with Sam Darnold? We're both SC guys, so we both we have to see what he is. Is he just kind of that guy who just gives you a couple throws a game and you just say, oh yeah, this is great, and then the rest of the game is like you can't find that one great throw again?
Yeah, this is it for Sam Darnold. He's gonna have to figure it out this year.
He's a backup if he doesn't do it this year.
Yeah, the good news for him is he has Christian McCaffrey behind him, and I like DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson and then Terrence Marshall outside. I'm not in love with this offensive line other than Taylor Moton. Like the rest of the guys to me are all like fill-in capable players. None of them are solid starters. So he might be under pressure, but I love what they've done on defense. I want to talk about their defense. Like the pass rush potential on this team is really good when you line it up. Brian Burns, Derek Brown for a big guy can get some push. Gross Matos out of Penn State's a good pass rusher. Davion Nixon from the interior is a good pass rusher. Hassan Reddick can put his hand down on the ground and get after the quarterback. Shaq Thompson from the second level is a blitzer. And then they have some guys in the back, and Jeremy Chin was a really good player last year as a rookie. And then you throw J.C. Horn in, who I thought was QB one, or cornerback one. I had him over Patrick Surtain. I love the attitude he plays with and the physicalness. And he's got a little bit more twitch to him than I thought Surtain did. And I think he's going to fit in well. And this is a team, too, that plays a lot of three high safety to that college look last year where they had 3 down linemen and then 3 safeties. So this is a team that's going to have to generate pass rush to do that. And I think they have pieces that can. And then they have some coverage guys in the back end that have a chance to be pretty good as well. So that defense has a chance to be a top 10 defense in this league if they hit right.
Yeah, I do like a lot of the pieces they have there, and like you said, I mean, I think you're gonna, if you were looking for like maybe a fantasy sleeper, it might be a guy like Robbie Anderson, who had some really good years with Darnold in New York with the Jets. That might be something to look at as well. And if they're able to kind of get that connection going, it's a beautiful thing when you have Christian McCaffrey back there. I mean, he's such a versatile player. He can do so many different things. He can run inside, he can run outside, he can catch the football. And like, he's like, he's one of my favorite running backs of all time is Roger Craig, and he can do a lot of those Roger Craig type things with this offense. So those two will be there. I think it's a big year to show, like, to get 7, to get 8 wins. For this team, it would be a good stepping stone for this team. And if they can get a quarterback, to kind of not have to draft one, because it doesn't look like one's coming in the draft, anytime soon. Who's going to be a difference maker? You never know, but not a top flight guy. It should be interesting to see if if Brady can put enough of a concept and package together to help Darnold be successful, because they are, even with the questionable offensive line, there are still some things here that they're going to be able to do offensively that should really help Darnold and the Panthers score some points.
No, definitely. I think that Joe Brady is going to open up this offense, and if he can't succeed with Sam Darnold, I don't know where he's going to succeed in this league. Flipping back to the defense real quick, the one thing that I do like, as I mentioned, is those 3 safety looks. Now, if you're a quarterback in the league, you're basically taught to read the safeties. Is it single high? Is it too high? Is it middle of the field open, middle of the field closed? Now, when you have 3 safeties, it's neither one of those. So a lot of the quarterbacks' reads are based on what the safeties are doing pre-snap and post-snap. And these quarterbacks aren't used to seeing that 3 safety look and whether they're going to drop one of those guys or play coverage. And there's going to be a lot of underneath that stuff open, but the guys that want to push the ball down the field are going to struggle facing this defense. And they have the pass rushers, if they only bring 3 or maybe 4 where they don't have to blitz, that they can get there. So I'm really intrigued by this defense. I don't want to get that lost. I really like the potential.
Me too.
And maybe a year from now, teams figure out how to attack that defense. But those 3 safeties, when you play that defense on third down or in passing situations, I think you're going to give some quarterbacks a lot of trouble.
Against the 3 safety look, are you looking to just, are you feel, I mean, this is like down in distance as well too. Like if it's 3rd and 11, 3rd and 12, I mean, it changes, but like, are they doing that are there something they do on first down as well? So if you want to run the football, is that like a way to kind of combat that 3 safety look?
Yeah, well, one, you want to run the ball because you're going to have the numbers. So obviously you want to do that on early downs and distance. They're doing a lot of it more in passing situations or when they have the lead. They're not necessarily doing it on 1st and 10 or 2nd and 4 or 2nd and 3 or anything like that. But it's something that they can do. And Jeremy Chin is kind of like the perfect guy that allows them to do that.
Yeah.
And I hope the Raiders show a little bit of that too this year because of the depth they have at safety. I would assume the Broncos, but you're going to start seeing that across the league, I think, a little bit more this year.
On third and long, especially.
On 3rd and long. 3rd down 7, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, 2nd and 20. And the quarterbacks are going to have to take the checkdowns and throw the ball in the flat. And some of these quarterbacks aren't going to want to do that. So it's going to really test their patience. We'll see. We'll see. That's my one thing I want to track mostly this year is how successful those 3 safety packages are across the league.
Because you can see that everywhere at some point if it's successful. In Carolina, I think didn't Tampa do some of that in the Super Bowl as well against Mahomes. So we'll see there.
And then I want to say Phil Snow. He's from the Big 12. I want to say he's from Baylor.
Baylor.
Yeah. And they run that defense. So it's something the NFL just hasn't seen.
Yeah. I think that's probably one of the reasons why he got that job because of that too as well. So because they want to do something a little different as well. Wrapping up the NFL part of this on the Put On Waivers NFL show. Thank you everybody for listening and watching on YouTube. All things like that. Jimmy is the starter with the 49ers. It's interesting to me that people are still listen. I think they're a talented team. I think health can be an issue with them, especially with whether it's a running back or wide receivers. But Jimmy is going to play a lot. I don't see Trey. Like people have this like they're supposed to be really. People are picking them to be really good, but then they're also looking at Jimmy being replaced like after 5 games. Like how does that like equate to them being a really good team? Like that's a lot. That's a big ask, especially from a guy who in Trey Lance who hasn't played a lot of football. But I look for Jimmy to play until he gets hurt. I mean, he's shown that he always does get hurt at some point, but I think that this is the opportunity for him and for him to kind of resurrect his thoughts. We talked to Marcus Johnson last week about his film work and didn't look that great last year. But we'll see if Kittle can stay healthy, if Ayuk can stay healthy. People are all over the Niners, but I just think we got to be careful as far as going crazy about a team that is basically said to themselves, we don't want you at quarterback anymore.
Yeah, I think Jimmy is going to start the season as a starter there. I just don't think Trey Lance is ready. He just hasn't taken enough snaps and seen enough defenses or thrown the ball or read enough coverages. I do think, though, if he starts showing, if this team slips up a little bit and Lance in practice is showing the elite athleticism and the arm strength that he understands enough with the coverages. And for me, the main thing is the protections. Like, is this guy ready to go out the line of scrimmage in the NFL and get the protections right? I don't know. Like, does he see those kind of defenses at North Dakota State and the limited number of snaps? And he played basically 1 year in 1 game. So I think he's behind the curve mentally as far as to me, it's the protections and reading defenses. But once he proves that he can do that, then I think he plays. Unless, Jimmy goes out there and, they're 12-5 or 11-6 and they got a clear playoff spot lined up, then there's no reason to run him out there. I just don't. I think the defense is good enough. I don't see this team falling to 1-5 or 2-7 to start the season. If that happened, then I think Trey Lance goes out there. But
they have a great.
Jimmy's gonna be out there.
And of all the teams in their division, they have two. They have to start off 2-0. I believe. I think they play Detroit. They play Detroit and somebody else, and who's a bottom, about more of a bottom team. If they go 0-2 or 1-1, I'll be worried about them. I'll be worried about them as far as that goes. And any thoughts on Chandler Jones?
I think he doesn't want to be in Arizona.
Why? Like that. It seemed like that was the reason why they got JJ Watt. So that's kind of really odd.
I think it has a little bit to do with the whole Xavier Howard situation too. He wants to be paid, and they brought in JJ Watt, and they gave him a big contract. I think it was like $15 or $16 million a year, and Chandler Jones is sitting over there with all that production and wondering where's his contract.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think I tweeted something out about that. Teams have to be really careful when you go outside your organization. When you have a superstar at a position who's an all-pro, and you go out and sign someone at the same position and give them a bigger contract for a lesser player, there's going to be issues. It's just going to happen. It's the nature of everything. Think of you at your job. If someone went out and hired, a guy to basically in the same job as you that you're better than, and then paid them a bigger salary than you, you're going to be upset. So it's just human nature. I would be upset. I think most people would. So I just don't think he wants to be there anymore because of that.
Yeah, and then should be. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, maybe he can go back to New England. They got all of a sudden the purse strings are huge right now. All right.
Yeah.